Even the greetings, people greet you in a negative way. See, some, somebody's gonna call out you, hey, one big face, hey, stigma. It's like, so it's like the culture has an impact, an indelible impact on how people behave and how they react to circumstances.
Like, subscribe, and share to Voices of Linden TV.
Welcome to another edition of the Let's Talk Show. I'm your host, Andre James, and today I'm pleased to have with us in studio Dr. Eon George, former Mackenzie High School student, and of course, our returning guest, Miss Armina Seetram.
Thanks for having me, Andrew, and welcome to our show, Dr. Eon George. I am so excited to introduce you. Dr. George is a doctor of education, counseling, and supervision, and hails out of Atlanta, Georgia. He also holds a PhD in psychology with an emphasis on cognition and instruction, and currently serves as a counselor at a school in Atlanta. And also, on top of everything else, you are a professor at two universities and in development psychology and ethics. So welcome to our show, Dr. George. How is your day so far?
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure. My day is great. There's nothing to complain about. All right. I'm glad to be here with you guys and look forward to talking with you.
Very good. Armina, Dr. George, he comes across as a young guy, but I think he's not as young as us. Dr. George, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please? Stemming back from your time in Linden as a little boy and your transition to Mackenzie High School to where you are today, please.
Okay. As I talk about myself, let me begin with somewhat of what I call an interesting, astonishing statistic. And that is that if all of my siblings were alive today, I would be one of 29 siblings.
Wow.
I'm going to pause and allow that to sink in with some imaginary sound effects, if you please, wow, for a dramatic impact. Yes, but I mean, having come from Mackenzie High School, you guys have done math. I used to be a math teacher. So to figure that out, 29 siblings, let's say set A is my mom, set B, that's my dad. At the point of intersection, there's 5. Set B, which will be a complement, that with my dad, that's 17. And with my mom, that's set A complement would be 7. So 7, 5 in the center, 17, a total of 29 kids if all of us were alive. Don't ask me where I am with my dad, because I think it may be somewhere around 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. But with my mom, I'm the 3rd child. How did I get to Mackenzie High School? Well, I wasn't born in Linden. I'm originally from Belladrum, West Coast, Babis, country boy. And but I moved to Linden at age 8, a very early age. When I moved to Linden, I attended St. Aidan's Primary, and then to Mackenzie High School in 1980. And I lived in the Valley for about 2 years, and then I moved to industrial area where I stayed until I left Linden. So essentially, those were my formative years. And going to Mackenzie High School, of course, I believe was one of the high points of my life. Mm-hmm. I made some lasting friendships, and I think I am where I am today because of the experience there.
Well, I can't imagine. I have to ask, what was it like living in such a blended family?
Well, the interesting thing is that we didn't all grow together. And the reason was because when we moved to Linden, it was just me, my brother, and my mom. Other siblings, the older ones, were back in the country area. And 2 years into living in the Valley, my stepdad at the time, he died suddenly. And so my mom decided to go back to Berbice. But because I was going to Mackenzie High School, and I don't know if you know, but around in the 80s, 90s, there were six top schools in Guyana: Mackenzie High, from Linden. You had those three in Georgetown: Saints, Bishops, and Queens. You had Berbice High School, and then you had that one in Essequibo, I think was Regina Multilateral or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to move me back to Berbice would have been difficult for me to get to school because the closest school had been all the way in New Amsterdam. So I stayed and I grew up with my great aunt in the industrial area. Right. So yeah.
Oh, what an amazing story. And I think it's quite refreshing for students today to realize what a highlight it was to attend something as prestigious as Mackenzie High School that made such an impact on all of us.
Man, that uniform said it all. Okay. I know you guys didn't have a taste of the real uniform, but the real uniform was when those girls wore that sash, the blue and the white with the sash, and the guys wore that khaki pants, white shirt. I had 1 year of that, and then of course everything switched over to the green and cream color that is popularly. I think it's still present right now as green and white right now, something to that effect. But we had the
Yeah,
real. And
my
that
goodness.
uniform said something. It made a statement about who you were as an individual, about your accomplishment, about your abilities. It was everything.
Any fond memories of the school, Doc? Any teachers that stood out for you? Any good friends you can remember?
Yeah, I remember everything about Mackenzie High School, man. Everything from the first day I entered there until I left. Uh, I still keep in touch. That's one of the good things about me, I believe. I still keep in touch with my classmates. I still reach out to them. I call. Um, matter of fact, only last week I went and visited one of them. He lives about an hour and a half from me. So I went and checked him out. So I still keep in touch. But while at Mackenzie High School, teachers that stood out to me, well, first of course, Gloria Britton, Dennis Britton. That was my first teacher. She was my first homeroom teacher, class teacher, that is, in 1A. And then Form 2 and 3, we had the same teacher, Mr. Carl Limerick, one of the most difficult teachers to have experienced. Form 4, it was Jaipal, Motilal Jaipal. And then Form 5, we had Miss McDonald as our class teacher. She was also the chemistry teacher. So I remember everything. I remember all my classmates. I had some very good friends that I still, as I mentioned, keep in touch with. Some of my classmates I remember: Simone Hines, Kamachi Chinapen, Miles Gittins, Frederick Adrian. I remember all those folks very well, very well.
Doc, do you gamble at all? Because I know earlier you said, you come from a big family and the number 5, 7, and 17. I was thinking, Armina, we should play those numbers in our quick pick tonight. Those are good numbers. Armina, let's buy a quick pick tonight. 5, 7, and 17. Let's see if we can win a couple millions on the doctor's behalf there. Doctor,
Well, life's full of chances for sure, isn't it?
yeah. I wrote those numbers down. I think I'm gonna buy them. Doctor, I
Okay.
got a question here for you about legacy. A legacy gives you an opportunity to live for a purpose that's bigger than yourself. What would you say is your legacy?
My legacy is, I would say that the fact that when I leave, if and when that time comes, I would have left an indelible mark in a very significant way. One thing is I'm not the boastful kind of guy, but I feel proud of having accomplished something that I believe hardly anyone else in the world has ever done. And that is, I'm the first Black person, first man first person from the Caribbean, I believe, to have ever completed 2 doctoral degrees simultaneously from 2 universities at the same time, man. And so that is an impossible feat. In fact, I had to keep it quiet because I didn't want to be discouraged while I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that that is something that's going to be spoken about for a very, very long time. because I don't know of any other person who has ever done that.
Well, that's certainly something to be very proud of. What do you think was it that kept you so driven, or what motivated you to want to do it?
When you understand my background, you will have an idea as to what drives me. I believe that regardless of where you've come from and what your experiences are, you can amount to much. And let me share with you my experience. I believe of the kids who have passed through Mackenzie High School, I would stand out there as one who has passed through there with extreme paucity. I'm talking about being poor, hardly having anything. I remember the days when, I used to make needles from those old umbrellas to stitch back my bata yachting boots.
And Bata Sawaki.
Yes, sir. And I couldn't even afford, I didn't have polish. So what you'll do, you'll burst open the battery, those old batteries, and use the engine grease and make polish. But what happens is that is highly alkaline, and so it will destroy the shoes very quickly. And so I had to be resorting to stitching that back up. And I remembered one time it got so bad that it could not even be stitched, and I had to fake a limp because you couldn't go to school without full uniform. You had to wear a full uniform. I faked a limp so I could wear rubber slippers to school for about a week, man, until I got another. So I that's where I came from, you know what I mean? And having come from there, the thing that kept me going, one was the fact that I was extremely brilliant, and I'm grateful for that gift. And so in spite of the fact that I was going through all of these things, and to share with you the depth of some of the things that I've had to face, that would take a long time. But what kept me driven is the fact that I still did extremely well in school. I was among the top kids always, and that in itself, to me, was the inner drive that I had. Hey, I'm smart. In spite of all this I'm going through, I'm smart, and I can do this. I can do this. And so that is why when I was, life threw at me the doctoral degree issue, that I was able to do what I did. It was never a plan to do 2 doctoral degrees at the same time. That's madness. You have to be kind of cuckoo to do something like that. But what happened was that after I finished I did a first master's degree in New York, and then I moved to Georgia to do the PhD in clinical psych. And I got sidetracked. I ended up doing a second master's in counseling because I wanted to get back into the school system. And then I discovered that a master's was not enough, because there were a lot of people with masters, but they weren't getting in because it's a very privileged position. So I had to go higher, and I did the specialist degree, and then I got in at that point. But then I said, if I already did a specialist, a few more, 3 more years, 3.5 more years, I can have the doctorate. So I applied for the doctoral program, and they accepted me into the program at University of West Georgia. But they sent the acceptance to an email that I wasn't using. And so when I finally heard, it was about a month too late to get into that cohort. And by that time, I'd already applied to another school for the PhD program. So I said, you know what? I'm not getting into that one. I'll just go and start this one. And then a few months later, University of West Georgia sent a new acceptance and said, hey, we need you in the next cohort. So I had to come to the decision, well, okay, I'm already in one. Do I just drop this whole idea that I was pursuing, or tighten my belt, tighten my lacing, and try to see if the impossible could happen? And that's what I did. I attacked it like that. I kept it quiet. Most people didn't know about it until when I was at the point of dissertation, because I didn't want anybody distracting me or discouraging me from doing this madness, as it were. So I believe that coming from having nothing was the inner drive that pushed me to do so much.
I can relate to that. So very proud of you, and the fact that you were so successful and the first of many. And it's a great paving stone for the others who thinks it's unattainable. But one of the words you used is you were focused and ensured that nothing distracted you. How does one maintain focus?
I think that is an individual thing. You have to ask yourself, how badly do you want what you're going after? How much is it to you? How important is it to you? Is it necessary for you? Are you just doing it because you're trying to impress somebody? Or are you doing it because it is something that you think you need to do? So you have to look at what is the motivation behind that particular pursuit. And I think that is what helps you to keep focused, because I mean, it's like, I mean, Andrew, and you're interested in a young lady and she's giving you a difficult time. I mean, but the point is, if if the motivation is that this has to be my wife at all costs, then it doesn't matter what she says, how long she says, you're going to keep going and going, because I mean, hey, that is your motivation. You intend to see her as your bride or what have you. So I think what keeps you focused is what is your motivation for what you're going after.
You guys have to have come from Linden. Oh, shame. Just kidding. Because DJ Thunder said the other day that when you're from over the river, you're from half mile. It's stuck in my head till today that even if you're 200 pounds, you're going to lose 50 pounds to climb the wall to conquer where you got to conquer. I mean, well, good luck, guys. But still, a very, very proud. It's true. It's very true. It's what you're focused on, what it is that you know that drives you on the inside, and for it to be so, accomplished because no one else has really ever done it. It's certainly something to be very, very proud of. But why psychology?
I never thought I would have. Never. In my initial years coming out of Mackenzie High School, my desire was to do electronic engineering. I was in the A stream, science stream, 4S1, 4S2. So the desire was to pursue electronic engineering. I was very interested in those kind of things. In fact, at age 13, I used to be with my cousins at the mechanic shop in Linden, in Amelia's ward, Henry Mechanic Shop. I don't think it exists anymore. But I used to be there and I learned mechanic work. So right now I could loose down an engine and build it back. I've done it several times, right? So, but I used to be there. So I was driven by those kind of things. But sometimes life directs you in a different direction. And what happened with me is that I went down to Georgetown to attend the University of Guyana. And at the same time, I had just started doing some cycle racing, bought a brand new 10-speed racing cycle and so on. And that was my pride and joy, It was also my means of transportation around the city.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, being in Georgetown, you have to, if you can't just go UG, you got to find a job. And so I applied for a job with the Guyana Pharmaceutical Corporation and had to go to the Proston's building, which is, I think now Citizens Bank on Camp and Charlotte, somewhere around there. And I had to go there for an interview. So I rode my bike, brand new bike, and I took the lock and I locked the bike onto the building, man. And I went in for this interview. When I went into the interview, I didn't spend 3 minutes in there, I can tell you that, because the guy asked a question about food handler certificate, because he said the location where you're going to be here, they will have things that you will need a food handler certificate to work. So he said, I'm going to send you back to this particular place. You go there, and in a week, they're going to give it to you, and then you come back and we can wrap up this employment process. And I walked out, took out my keys and turned. When I turned, not even the lock was there.
Oh, wow.
My bike, everything was gone. And that kind of broke my spirit. A few weeks later, I was back in Linden.
Wow.
2 weeks later, I was back in Linden. I became a teacher at Multi. I was a math teacher, math and integrated science teacher there for a while. And then I left and went to Trinidad and studied a few years later, did theology and behavioral science. So I started doing a lot more people focused. It became more of a people focused career. So it was along that line that I kind of switched and eventually And so when I did my master's, my first master's was in psychology at Long Island University and so on. So that was what pointed me in that direction. It was not a plan. And so, I mean, to anyone looking at this, life sometimes takes you in a different direction, So it's not what life throws at you, but what you do with what is thrown at you.
Mhm.
Yeah, making lemonade, right?
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah, that's like amazing. But I do believe that in the end, the psychology is like dealing with the mind, and in a way, it's like taking an engine apart because you're rebuilding it. You're gaining that
Well,
confidence,
don't
behavior.
get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love what I do. All right. I love the field, but as I'm saying, it was not my first love. Um, my first love was for the more of the technical field, electronics, mechanical work, that kind of thing. And I still do it. I do it on the side. But my career, as it were, is built around this people-oriented kind of career focus where I'm doing this kind of work. And I love it. I do. I do. And like you said, it's almost like the um, biological aspects, biological and mental aspect of what you would consider to be a technical field. So you talk about rebuilding the mind. I look at it more as helping the person rebuild the mind, because as a psychologist, your focus is not to change the person, but your focus is to help the person find that change in themselves.
Yes. Yeah, my sister's actually taking psychology, and I listen to her all the time with the words she would say to a child. She'll not say, do this, but she'll say, if you do this, this is what's going to
Exactly.
happen. So, and I
Mhm.
mean, mind you, I think there's a bit of psychology in, like, I'm in sales, so there's psychology there. It's all about the mind. It's all about, like, I'm in counseling too. So at the end of the day, it's about helping that person attain something that they can gain on their own through what you're helping them with. So
Exactly.
it's all about the behaviors, but there are some challenging days in that field. So how do you cope with that?
Um, for me, I don't think, I mean, there are difficult days, but I believe something can be only as difficult as you allow it to be.
Very true.
How you classify it, I mean, you will determine how high the mountain is by looking, say, is this something that is conquerable? As I said, I've gone through so much that and much you can do or say to me that's going to phase me. All right. Much that is like, okay. And if you're talking about hardship, I've been through that. You're talking about challenges, I've been through that. I know what that is about. So you can't come to me with, and I mean, that much that is new. Um, the worst cursing I got in my life, it was a student who cursed me out, man. And it's like, if you were to know the details of that cuss out, as we would call it, man, you'd be left amazed, that's kind of trying to work with them to help them, but that's what they respond to you. And so it's a matter of allowing a person to, anybody who is oppositional and have these issues or challenges that they pose to you. It's a matter of when they begin to see that you are as interested in them or more interested in them than they think you were, all of that changes. All of that changes. And sometimes a person just want to vent. They just want to say what they have to say. And okay, if you got to be the punching bag, not literally, they can't allow them to put their hands on you. But if you have to be the punching bag so that they can get to release whatever is going on, and so that you can eventually get a breakthrough to help them to get the breakthrough, then hey, it's a process. So it comes with the job. Tough days are normal things.
I agree with you, because I find, like, when those things happen, you're actually breaking through and you're actually getting closer to them, and they're just fearful of not wanting to share, to go really deep within themselves. So they start lashing out. It's their defense mechanism. It's like when a client tells me no, or they're coming up with objections, you're actually getting close. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
quite,
I mean,
interesting.
it's not, objections are not bad. Excuses are a problem. So you have to be able to differentiate between what's an objection and what's an excuse. If it is an excuse, then that makes it this. You know that the person is deliberately trying to blackball you. as it were. But objections are genuine concerns about, or genuine trepidations about what they want to venture into. Another thing, as you were talking about challenges and difficulties, we never know what a person is going through. We never know. In my PhD, my dissertational study, my seminal piece was on anxiety, depression, and intermittent explosive disorder among Caribbean, Black, and African American adolescents, right? And my focus was to determine, with the high rate of depression and anxiety that is recorded, is there a correlation between that and intermittent explosive disorder, this random, unprovoked anger that you would see in adolescents? And interestingly, what I came to find out was that there is a relationship between depression and intermittent explosive disorder.
Yeah.
Right. What was amazing in the find was that even though depression and anxiety are comorbid, they work together, one go with the other. Anxiety was not necessarily related to intermittent explosive disorder, but people who are depressed can behave that way. So sometimes when we look at the level of anger and random expressions expressions of anger, then sometimes it goes deeper than just what we're seeing. And so that's one of the things I learned in the process of studies, and you have to go a little deeper. And
well, a lot of people have unchecked emotions, right? And they're not aware that they have unchecked emotions that they're dealing with from whatever would have happened in the past, or things that they thought never were at the surface, but it's deep in there. And they just have these outbursts and they don't realize that they have it within them. And these are signs, I think, later on in life that people start to react to, and they don't understand it. So then they realize that there's something on check that that's trying to come to the surface, and it takes like a little something to trigger you. And all of a sudden it's like you're back at square one that you never really had. And growing up also like in the same situation like you, and also having to not have much in life when you were younger, I can align with you that, what you have in one circumstance, you can change it when you have a chance to change it and you're motivated. Exactly. Someone told me the other day that they were so angry, and I said, well, use that anger to drive you. Either it's going to destroy you, or you can use it to drive you. And so, but then realizing too that you have emotions you may not have dealt with, and decide if you're going to be held back in your past, or if you're going to recognize the emotion and move on ahead. Right. Okay. So
yeah, you're right with that. But there is another variable that impacts upon decisions, that impacts upon behaviors, and that is culture. You leave here, as Guyanese, and you go home. One of the things you're going to see a lot of is people arguing and quarreling, cussing each other out on the roadside. That is a cultural thing. And so open expressions of anger, it's like everybody's angry. Everybody cussing everybody out. Even the greetings, people greet you in a negative way. See, somebody's going to call out you, hey, one big face. Hey, it's like, so it's like the culture has an impact, an indelible impact on how people behave and how they react to circumstances. And so that's another thing. That's something you have to consider when you look at how people behave and how they react and how they think and how even their plans for their life and their goals. Culture is an indelible factor, right?
Like you said before, what you plan for doesn't always come, because you don't know the direction of where anything's going to go. Like, you really truly don't know. And I grew up in Linden, but I seem like I grew up in some corner of Linden where I didn't see a lot of the yelling and screaming and fighting. And I've come later on in life to find out that everybody had a nickname. And yes, every time I go back to Guyana, it's funny. I could be 1 week skinny, and next week somebody said I got fat, and next week it looks like I got fatter. Like it's so common there, and it's so different living in North America because we're so sensitive to those words, you know, and the impact that they seem to have. But back home, I guess it's back home. What are you going to do? Like it's a norm. I used to think, because I remember witnessing my very first fight in Nandy Park. I was looking out the back window, and this husband and wife were fighting, and next minute they're like together and so peaceful and lovey-dovey. And I was like thinking in my head, oh, that's like what you're supposed to do in marriage, I guess. You just pick a fight and then you're happy the next minute, you know. But whatever works. I don't know if it's healthy, but it's scary. But Andrew, how do you fight?
Oh, I don't fight anymore. I used to fight when I was younger, but I'm getting old now. I don't have as much juice as the young days, right? So I'm a talker now. I like to talk to people, and that's why we have the Let's Talk show. Doctor, as a professional school counselor in the state of Georgia, are you just practicing in the state of Georgia? If someone is having let's say, so much happening in the world today, if someone is having a hard time, it doesn't have to be, you talk about your time at Mackenzie High School, you talk about you were a teacher at the multilateral school. You've done a lot of stuff, all over. You got friends in different circles and so on. If someone is struggling privately in their own life, let's say me and Armina, we got to fight after the show, and Armina wants to reach out to you. Is there a way for her to do that? Do you have a phone number folks can contact you on? And if you're open to sharing those details with us, that'll be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I do it all the time. Young lady that sadly committed suicide about a month and a half ago was a very good friend of mine that I was working with. And I missed, sometimes you look for signs and signals, and I missed a sign and I missed it because she posted the stuff on TikTok, and I wasn't really a regular on that site. And that kind of shook me up because I just, next thing I know, I got the news, hey, she killed herself. But that was somebody that I was working with for the past year and a half, someone I've known for years. But I do work with people all the time, and I make myself available. I'm not one who believes in hiding. I don't have a problem with anybody having my number, so I can share my number. You can reach out to me, 678-670-6496. That's my number. And if I don't respond right away, it might be because I'm at work. But one good thing about me is that I will call back. You leave a message, send a text or something, and I will call you back. And because the thing is that we're here to help each other. And I have absolutely no problem working with anyone who is having some challenges. I know I can't help everyone, but my intent and my desire is to help as many people as I can. So reach out to me.
Doc, you want to run the number again for us? I think we lost you a little bit when you were saying it.
It's 678-670-6496.
Very good. Thank you.
Dr. George, seeing that you have 2 doctorates and you are a counselor at the school, and I know that psychology is a lot to do with the mind and people's behaviors and helping themselves, and that can take a toll on one's body, mind, and soul. So tell us, if you don't mind sharing, what is it that you do to maintain your ability to perform at your best?
Well, first of all, I'm a very laid back person, okay? And honestly, I spend a lot of time right where I'm sitting right now. I would just come and I would relax, put my legs up on the desk. I have a big screen. I would just watch a movie, a show sometimes, but I love to play music. So I do my own little DJ in here, and have a little fun by myself. But I like to travel. In fact, just about 3 weeks ago, I came back from Aruba. I went and, visit the island and have a little fun. So I do that from time to time. So I travel, I go to games. Actually, Friday coming is my birthday. So Saturday night, I'm going to go watch a basketball game. And so I do little things like that. I'm a little boring because I don't drink. I never drank yet in my life. Never, not even a beer, not even a shandy. So it's
Good
that
time to
bad.
start.
Hello, it's okay to not drink, Andrew James. Shame on you. So
Right.
what do
So
you think growing up in Guyana and the environment that you described? What was it that it's very unheard of today to
all right.
hear of, especially someone as accomplished as you and having to be in social events and all the people you've probably met in the world to not have taken a drink. Like I don't drink alcohol either, but I'm more cultural with that and
Oh,
religion with that. So
okay.
for you, what is it that you think that prevented you or that you weren't inclined to drinking?
Hardship drove my mother to drink.
Mm,
And for me and for us, it was an embarrassing experience to see what happened when she drank, how she behaved, and so on.
mm,
And that basically turned me from it. And I made the decision as a child I would never would. So I've gone to a few parties as a teenager. I'm not a party guy, but I've gone to a few parties as a teenager. I go out occasionally with friends and so on. And I've grown accustomed to being the brunt of the jokes when it comes to drinking. Everybody with a beer bottle or something in the hand, and I have my juice or my water. I
mm.
expect it. I anticipate it every time I go out. It's become the norm. So, but the thing that caused me not to is because of that experience, seeing what happened with my mom, how
Yeah.
bad it was, and I made the decision I never would. That's it.
Mm,
You are certainly a man of your word. Earlier, when we started the show, you did say to me and to us actually that if we understood your background, we would
mm.
understand what motivates you. So
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
quite eye-opening in a way to listen to you because people follow patterns, but at
Mhm.
some point, I think you yourself know your own inner strength and what would be the norm for someone to fall into a repetitive pattern. You actually chose to take a stand from
Yeah,
whatever it was that impacted you even at such a young age and say
exactly.
that will not be me, I will
Hmm.
not touch it. So quite remarkable because I've encountered people in my life who that is the norm of how they grew up, that is the
Correct.
behavior of how they grew up, that is
Mhm.
all they ever knew, and they followed pattern into the same. So I could see now what drives you to do the
Yeah,
things you do.
I'm a stickler for those things. I have no problem with anyone drinking. You can drink as much as you want. I hang out with people all the time who drink, but it's just that I don't. I'm gonna hang out there. I'm gonna drink my water. I'm gonna drink my juice. I'm gonna drink my Malta. I love Malta. And you can drink whatever you want to drink. I don't look at you funny. I'm not judgmental. Hey, it's all good. We just choose different paths. But I
Hey,
know I'm a fun person, okay? I know if you know me at all, you know that I can be the life of the party. I can.
describe,
It's
describe what is the life of the party? Let's hear it. Do you drink Coca-Cola in a wine glass?
so well, I mean, the thing is that I like having fun, okay? And I think that I can have fun without necessarily drinking. That's all. But I can be
Yeah.
fun. I know I'm fun. I like joking around, I like talking foolishness, and I do it with a straight face. Right? I do it with a straight face. And there are times where when I would say things and people will be looking at me, man, but they want to figure out if I'm serious or if I'm joking.
Yeah.
Um, Case in point, I remember at work at one time the ladies were talking about something about women and men and so on. And I said, I walked up and I said, that reminds me of my fourth wife, and I walked off. And while I was walking off, one lady said, Dr. George, you had four wives? And for months, she believed that.
Mm.
They believe that. And I let them run with that. But those are the kind of things I would do. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
with a straight face. But
And
I
once
love
again,
having
you're
fun.
from Linden, right?
Exactly.
Very good actors come from Linden.
Oh,
So,
that's well, if you want to call it acting, yeah, sure.
well,
But yeah, I
it's
love
a
having fun.
psychology. It's a messing
Mhm.
with the mind.
Poverty and effects that it have on people through your own lens. I mean, in your case, because of I I should agree. I grew up not so fortunate as some
Mhm.
people. But I had my own struggles as well, and I do think it had some impacts on my life. Is it fair to say, and Armina, you can jump in as well, is it fair to say that if you grow up poor, you value and appreciate things in life more compared to someone who grew up privileged? Is that a fair statement?
I don't think it's a fair statement, and the reason being, uh, every individual will choose how to deal with success. For some, the fact that they never had, now that they have, they may just be blasting it, wasting it because, hey, I never had it before.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the other person, hey, I never had, so I got to take care of this now that I have it. So it boils down to the individual. So it's not necessarily a fair statement to say that because this, um, for some people, being going through paucity and lack may be a depressive. They put them in a permanent depressive state where they're not interested. They're not going to even try because it makes no sense.
Right.
And then for the other person, hey, I'm not going to stay in this. I'm going to use this to motivate me. It's like the story of the tale of the two rats who fell into buckets of milk. And the first one, after trying, couldn't get out. He gave up. And the other one kept churning. He would not give up. And they say eventually the milk turned to ice cream because he was churning it and he was able to climb up. So you just got to keep churning until your milk turns ice cream, man. All right. So it depends on the individual.
I
Do you
agree.
want to get out of it, or do you want to stay there and just give up on life? So yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think that either or doesn't really, it's really the person, because the person that grew up with everything given to them, or that they, you can't help the circumstances of how you grew up, but at the end of the day, it can still drive you, because a lot of people that have had it still feel like they want to earn it on their own. Like there's something about making it on your own. And then those of us that grew up like really poor, seeing the struggles, and even if we had parents that still at some point made it out on their own, you're still driven. And then on top of that, I think as a woman, I was even more so driven that I wanted to have it on my own, to have nothing to do with anyone else, helping me get it. And you're kind of finding yourself, and you find your little niche of what you're good at, and you just keep going. And it's really whatever motivates you as a person to keep rising and rising. But I think at the end of the day, though, one of the things that I always say is success is really, how do you really garner what's one is success over the other? Because you can have all the educational success in the world, but still people will still always remember what you said, the legacy you leave, how kind you are, the good you've done, the changes, the impact you've made. And I think personally for myself, and you spoke about legacy earlier, it is what drives you. Like my success and your success and Andrew's success is driven more so by not just your accomplishments, which you've worked hard to do, but knowing that when you have those accomplishments under your belt, okay, I'm going to turn around now, still strive for more, but do so much good, as much as I could with what I have, and make the best to make it a better world. Because if we all garner and garnish and move on, then we're not really doing anything really.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, as you were talking about leaving a legacy, there's a plan that I'm working with, that there's something I really wanted to do back home in Linden, to start, given the skill set that I have. And I'm in the formative stages of it, but I really want to do that. My plan is to reach out to the current mayor rather, former Mackenzie High School student, Mr. Solomon, and share with him the vision that I have, and see what options there are for me to use some of these skills that I have to help. But that's something that I'm working on as well. So yeah.
This is going to be a free-for-all segment, Armina and Dr. George. This is the best time of the show. Of course, we're getting towards the end of things, so we want to squeeze a little bit of juice out of each other. Dr. George is there, or Dr. Armina in the waiting is there as well. This is going to be our free-for-all segment where, we're all Mackenzie High School students. We're expected to be able to handle an interview and ask and be the recipient of a question as well. So now, I've been talking all night. Dr. George, I'm going to put it over to you for you to pose a question to either me or Armina, and then Armina, you're going to pose a question to myself and Dr. George, and we'll play that way, and then we'll ask one final question, and we'll wrap the show up. How is that? Armina, you go
Sounds
first.
good.
Well, Andrew, so what have you learned from volunteering at the seniors' home?
Well, it's a nice way of giving back. It's first of all, Armenia, I don't really like questions, but I'll answer you anyways. It's it gives me an opportunity to see myself in the future, and I'm being placed in a position whereby I can love my grandparents again. That's the way I see it. They're gone, but while I'm not able to show them that closeness and that affection, I'm able to do it to someone else. So it's an extension of my love and commitment to my grandparents.
Yeah. Does it
Yes.
motivate you to stay active and to keep your mind healthy? Does it
It does.
make you plan?
Yes, it does, and it encourages me to be patient, because sometimes when dealing with, I don't like to call them old people, but I like to call them our tender-hearted seniors. When you're dealing with them, you gotta be soft and gentle, and you gotta give them the Andrew James touch, right? So yeah, it puts me in a different zone, if I may.
Kind of like how I feel when I have to deal with you now.
Yeah, Armina, you're making me blush now. This is real life. Stop that.
I'm very proud of you. I'm very, very proud. And I love all the videos you're doing, all the tours and visiting the goats and visiting the
And the
bridges.
flowers.
And the flowers, yes. Everything. It definitely bringing out the softer side of you.
Armina, we're on
interesting.
TV. Armina, we're on TV. Stop it. You're making me call blushy now. Dr. George, you're on.
So, Armina, if you were to make a change in your life, right? Something about your experiences or so on, what would that change be?
You know what? I wish I could go back to high school and I can not be so focused on whatever I was focused on and just kind of like remember all the things that everybody else remembers, like whose bench they were sitting, like who was sitting next to them, I was too far away thinking about the things that I don't think a young girl should have been thinking of. Like my mind was maybe too progressed in terms of things that I had to face, that I don't think I really sucked in all the little things like, the names that people had, the call names, or I had to grow up where like you go home straight after school. You're not allowed to look here or look there. I couldn't go to the fairs like you guys. I mean, I went to the fair one time and it was like amazing to get dressed up, and my parents let me go for like a few hours and it was like a whole different world. And I mean, it was a little bit of a lie. It was like we went to someone's house and then we all went, but then my parents came looking for me, so I had to go home. So sometimes I wish that I did get to enjoy like my younger years, listening to my 15-year-old tell me that she's going to enjoy her teenage years, and how proud she is and to have the experience with her friends, like, and they're so strong. Like, I wish that I could have had some of the exposure in a sort of a way that I did not get to have. Now, in all seriousness, would I actually change anything? I don't think so. So, Dr. George, is it chicken curry or curry chicken?
For me, it depends on your grammatical structure, how you're saying it. If you add the IED, curried, then it will be curried chicken. But apart from that, it's chicken curry. Right? If you're just speaking in Guyanese colloquial language, then it's chicken curry. But if you want to be grammatically correct and you say you add your verbiage and everything is correct, then curried chicken, not chicken curried. But it's chicken curry, but curried chicken.
Yeah, well, I thought it was only right for me to ask that question, seeing that you're Guyanese, but then you spent some years in Trinidad. We do know it's the map of the Caribbean. So yes, the train always goes around, doesn't it? So tell me, what's the last book that you've read recently?
Honestly, I do a lot more reading of articles than book, but of recent years, I have had this drive to um, go back to my roots. And there was a book that I read a long time ago that I started reading again. And this is the book by Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. And so that's I'm currently just revisiting that book. I read that book when I was in high school, and I recently got it back again. I'm working on it again. Things Fall Apart.
Things Fall Apart. What is it about?
It's about this it's looking at colonialism, the experience of um, this tribe in Africa, and in the face of colonialism, family challenges, dealing with anger, dealing with some of those issues that as an individual, as a warrior, he was facing, going through, like it's dealing with his own demons, as it were. Right? Yeah.
And you're reading it for the second time, you said?
Yeah, for the second time. The first time I read it, I was in high school, Mackenzie High School, and I found it again. So yeah.
So what's your takeaway?
My takeaway, I'm not yet through it, but for me, it says it doesn't matter who you are, life is going to throw things at you, and I like to use that phrase, throw things at you. And these include some of these some of the things that will come at you will come from within, and some from without. So it doesn't matter who you are, you can't escape those realities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dr. George, you ever thought about writing your own book?
Yes, I have, and I have been pushed. That was something that was suggested to me a long time ago. But it's like you don't have the time, and my focus now is on writing articles. Reason being, I plan to stay in my current job for another couple of years and then retire from there and then go into full-time professorship. Full-time, that's it. But and that's because I want to use next couple of years to write a whole lot of articles. What makes you more viable as an academician is your is the amount of literature that you produce.
Correct.
And in fact, that's one of the things I suggested to the MHS group a while ago, but nobody took me on it. Took me up on it. Said let's write a few articles. Let's put some things out there. Get your name out there. But I guess people are not so motivated towards that. But that's where my focus is more like writing articles rather than writing a book. But if I were to write a book, or the book that I want to write, it's basically it will be more like I don't want to say an autobiography, but it's like dealing with showing resilience through my story.
Quite appropriate. Yeah. Based on everything you shared with us tonight, I think I want to implore and encourage you to do it. I'm sure I'll be the first in line to get a book, and I'll buy one for Armina as well. So you got 2 sales there already. Working it and come back. We'll be here to support you all through your journey.
Thanks for the motivation.
Armina, I want to show some love to you. You've been with the show now for about, I just checked yesterday, you've been around the show for 3 years. So on behalf of myself and everyone that worked together to make the show what it is, we want to thank you for your years of service, and as you get in, more and more comfortable. One day, perhaps I can retire, and I can pass it over to you. So, on behalf of everyone at the show, I want to thank you for being a part of the show and continuing to support us throughout our journey here. Armina, everyone is speaking at each other tonight. I'll pick on you. What is I know you're in the business of real estate and this and that, but what is your greatest accomplishment? Let's say for the week or probably for today? I know we have a lot in common with helping and charities and, supporting the tender-hearted seniors and so on. But what is your greatest accomplishment for today or perhaps for the week, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, I guess my greatest accomplishment today, 22 years ago, my son was born. So it happens to be his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday to your son. And congratulations
to
you being a mom, of course, right?
Yes, I mean, coming to Canada 22 years ago, actually, a few weeks before today. So it's, I mean, it's amazing what you accomplish in life in terms of what you accomplish. You said I was 3 years with the show. I mean, I am happy that you convinced me to do the show. It certainly made me a lot braver. I believe that you can be brave within the realms of what you are. You become braver in terms of what you expose yourself to and what you open up yourself to, but also how you handle it. Like I'm reading this book by Robert Greene right now called The 48 Laws of Power. I mean, it's a mind game on its own, but I found like it's also making me dig deeper. So in terms of accomplishment, I think that we're accomplishing little things and big things every single day. It really depends on what you quantify it to. And I am learning to enjoy the moments and not rush things. And I think it's my bravery right now. And also just, you're always trying to just excel, but also reminding myself that we all have a little bit of an essence about who we are and, what it is we truly want to give in this life and what we want to get from it. So I feel accomplished all the time, I guess.
Very nice. Very, very nice. I know this Friday, November the 10th, it's a big day for Dr. George. It's a milestone birthday. And Armina, on behalf of myself, you, and everyone on the show, we want to show some love to Dr. George. Happy birthday, Dr. George. We hope you live to see 120 at least. You're doing good things. And, on a serious note, we want to thank you for your service and, commend you on the impact and the difference you're making in society. And of course, to our friends back home and in the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Dr. George. I hope you have a great non-alcoholic drink day. Maybe you can have a virgin pina colada.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the wishes.
Yes. And I mean, all your dreams come true. Like you said, articles are what it is that drives the community that you excel in, which you have done. And our wish for you is to see you accomplish what it is that you dream about in all seriousness.
Just in closing, what advice would you give to a young student at Mackenzie High School? That is our brand, and that's what we're all about. What advice would you give to a young student at the Mackenzie High School that's struggling academically, and perhaps they're, like us when we were younger, they're not in a position whereby, they're, financially advanced or so on. What advice would you give to that young student?
Okay. The first thing is that you have to come to the realization that no one is gonna mollycoddle you into success, right? And you might be struggling in one particular area, but it's practically impossible for you to struggle in every area. If you're struggling in every area, then something is absolutely wrong. So the idea is to find what is your niche, what is your skill, what is your strength, and you put the time and effort behind that. So you might not be able to excel in every academic content area, but there are some things that you can excel in. And so you put a lot behind that. And the areas that you're weak in, you work on developing them, right? Remember, again, as I said, no one is going to mollycoddle you. I guess that's a strange word for some people, but that simply means treat you in this overindulgent, protective way, provide everything for you. Nobody's going to make that happen for you. You have got to make this happen for yourself, right? The next thing you need to do is start developing this fastidious attitude where you start focusing on details. Because more often than not, when we are not performing as we should, it's not that we don't understand, but we are missing the things that we need to understand.
Correct.
So something is either distracting you, and so you need to get rid of those distractions so that you can, develop a much more fastidious attitude, paying attention to detail and learning. And finally, be purposeful and intentional about your decisions, your plans, and your life. Be purposeful and intentional about your decisions, your plans, and your life. And you'll be surprised to see how things will start turning around. When we were in elementary school or primary school, we call it, that story we heard about the little engine that could.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And if you the more you keep telling that to yourself, the more likely you are to make steps forward and progress, where you can look back and say, I knew I could. I knew I could. So again, be purposeful and intentional about your decisions, your plans, and your life. The fact that you are a student of Mackenzie High School means that there is something in you. There is something in you. You just got to capitalize on that.
Very nice. I like that. Good closing words. Be purposeful and intentional about decisions in your life. Armina, any closing words before we say goodbye to each other?
Oh, yeah. And even when you get derailed, just get back on track.
Yeah, very nice to say. I think we'll leave it there for tonight. On behalf of everyone at the Let's Talk Show, Dr. George, I'd like to thank you very much for being a part of the show and being in the hot seat tonight. I know it probably was, very, very, very hot there for you, but you got the best of both worlds there. You got yours truly, and you got Armina. So thank you for sharing some time with us, and we look forward to having you again in the near future. I know you're a very busy doctor, but if you can spare some time, we're always looking for friends, and we're always looking to have good conversations. So thanks
No
again.
problem, man. It will be a pleasure.